Welcome back to the Traders Network. I'm Michael Yorba, your host. Thanks for joining us. We're also streaming to you live on yorbamedia.com. Now, my guest this segment is Nick Santiago. Nick, thanks so much for coming on to the show.
Always a pleasure, Michael. Happy to be here.
All right, you got a couple of questions that are stacked up in the shout box before we get into our topics. Do you mind if we run them out?
Not at all.
Okay. Guest number 5161 says, at the end of 2011, almost upon us, I wondered if Nick thought of both gold and silver will hit new highs by the end of 2012.
I don't think we're going to we may not hit new highs by 2012, but we'll be on our way to it. It's a possibility. But I never know how much inflation is going to be created, and gold and silver both are an indication of inflation. I do expect a ton of inflation to happen sometime in 2012. So, how fast they go up, I'm not really sure. But at some point, they'll hit new highs.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to be on the show, so we'll be able to call that trade when it happens. Let's move on to Nevada's question, and then I want to get into all of your topics. Nevada wants to know what you think about the S&P, and will it join the Shanghai index in the basement, and if so, when?
Well, the S&P will probably outperform the Shanghai, because Shanghai is now leading the markets. It's led the markets for quite a long time. If you go back and look at the 2009 S&P bottom in March of 2009 at 666, you'll notice that the Shanghai actually bottomed out in November 2008. So the Shanghai is a precursor of what's to come. It will lead our markets. It usually leads them by several months, 4, 5, 6 months. So the Shanghai is a precursor. I ultimately think that the Shanghai will take all the markets lower in 2012. But then once the inflation rally gets turned on by the Chinese, by the Europeans, and by the U.S. central bank called the Federal Reserve, everything will go back up.
Okay. All right. Thanks for answering those for our guests out there.
Sure.
Now, S&P, you're going to lead off with that one.
Well, last week when I was on your show, I had talked about the S&P should give us a short-term low early this week, and so far that has happened. Right now, I think we're in Christmas mode for the most part. I just want to warn traders not to get too complacent here, because anything is possible. You do have a lot of wild cards out there. Even though the European crisis looks to be a little bit better right now, you have the Shanghai index, which is still struggling. It did make a little bit of a low on the date I had talked to you about around the 18th, 19th, and but it's still struggling here. So we still need to approach this market with caution, even though we have gotten that nice bounce in the S&P this week.
Okay, so are you looking for further higher prices as we creep through the end of the year, or just some kind of a stalling effect here?
Well, I think that we're going to probably go up there and test that 200 moving average again on the daily chart. So that's always, we're basically there now, maybe a little bit higher. We could stall around there, but next week's a holiday week, and you have to give the market that slight upside bias because the volume will be just so light.
Okay, got it. Now, the TLT, the bond market is a big issue coming up here because of a lot of things, but let's get your take on it.
Okay, last week when I was on your program, I had mentioned the TLT is coming up into what I call one of my max moves. It actually pierced it by a little bit, but you've seen the TLT come back in and sell off pretty sharply, especially over the past 3 days. So, traders, and I know you're traders, you have a few of them that listen, watch that TLT around the 114.50, 115 level. A lot of support there for a short-term bounce.
Okay, well, we're running at 119, so obviously a little bit lower is what you're looking for. Now, the short-term bounce, is there anything significant about that you want to trade it, or just say, look out?
Yeah, it'll be a tradable bounce. It'll be a tradable bounce for maybe 3 to 5 days, I guess, maybe even a little bit longer than that. But, it's just going to keep everybody honest in this market to show that this market isn't going to go gangbusters to the stock market. The S&P isn't going to go gangbusters to the upside. So, the TLT came in pretty sharply. It could do that again, and just watch that level for the short-term bounce. But I'm in the camp that I think we're probably going to get down there.
Okay, tell me. I'm looking at the TLT right now on a daily chart here. What's significance about 114?
Well,
Is there is that a Fibonacci number? Is there something else that you're looking at?
No, it's just a mathematical calculation that I use, Michael, proprietary level.
Okay.
They can, those levels are not perfect. They can be pierced, but they're usually pretty solid. Last week I think I talked about the 123 area, maybe a little bit higher. We pierced through there, and then the next day it comes back down. So sometimes those levels that I give you, they can pierce a little bit, but they usually will come right back in.
Okay, all right. So you're not going to give me the recipe on the secret soup? Just kidding.
I can't give the recipe on that one.
I had to ask.
I had to ask. I know. Okay. I get asked every day.
All right. Now, FXE, what do we got there?
All right, let me take a look at the FXE. Last time I was on, I had talked a little bit about the FXE, that it could be due for a short-term bounce. The action is absolutely terrible, though. So we'll look for a little bit more upside. But if this thing continues to consolidate, basically around or about that 132 for a while, that's going to set up for a real nice January decline. So really we're just on pattern watch for the FXE. I haven't really run any cycles on that at the moment, but I'm just looking at the pattern and how weak the action is, and it's dramatic. But this thing really may want to go down to around the 123, 124 level. Sometime in January, it may start that decline.
Okay, so do you have sell stops in place for this?
Not yet. Because of the Christmas and New Year holiday and Hanukkah is upon us. Right now, I'm just waiting on pattern, and then I think you could we'll probably just issue a short alert.
Okay, all right. Now, Simon's got a question for you.
Yeah, it's not actually to do with today's markets, but I was looking at your website. You've got an interesting DVD that I was reading about, Profit Making Secrets. And who is this written by? It's one of your chief market strategists. Is it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I produced that DVD.
Oh.
It shows some of my, a couple of conventional patterns out there, but I also talk about how to use trend lines for breakdowns and breakouts and the most effective way to use them. Also, there's a host of different strategies in there, and I tell you also how I predict the market tops and market bottoms in that DVD as well. So I did produce that DVD, and it's all me on there.
You've also got an online course as well, haven't you? I was reading about that. That's a little bit more involved. That's 5 hours.
We do a monthly webinar where we teach you all about all of our techniques, and I teach you all about the cycles that I look at as well. And in that online course, I also go through my 2012 forecast in detail. Oh. So we just had that class last Saturday on the 17th of December.
Yeah,
it was we had a great class, a great showing for that.
There's a lot of topics in there. Is that an interactive class online?
Completely interactive. You can ask as many questions as you like in that class. We cover about 18 different segments. Mm-hmm. This Saturday, the class lasted 8 hours.
Wow. You've got December 17th. When's the next one?
The next one will post up there soon, but it'll be sometime in January. Normally, it's around the third week of January, usually on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon.
I should be looking out for that.
Yeah, come over, Simon. We'd love to have you.
I will indeed.
Yeah, he definitely needs to learn how to trade.
I've been trading before, don't worry. The topics here are really interesting, so I think I will come over. That would be nice.
Excellent. We'd love to have you.
Thank you.
We got a question for you in the shout box here. Guest 1909, he says, Michael, can you ask if the TLT comes to that level, what would bonds be? So your price levels on the TLT, can you give us an equivalent of where you think the bonds would be relative to that?
Yeah, I'm not sure where the long bond would be, because I predominantly trade the TLT, and I don't trade the bond futures. So you just have to coincide the two. I would just keep up a TLT chart. I'm not exactly sure where that would be, precisely where that would be when the TLT gets to that level. But the TLT levels that I've been giving you guys have been, pretty accurate. So
yes, they have. We know that. Let's move forward before we get out of time here about the Chinese ADRs.
Yeah, well, right now, many of the Chinese ADRs have been, completely annihilated. Today, they're bouncing back a little bit. But, that is ultimately telling us, we've had some weakness coming in 2012. But, we'll see if this Shanghai can bounce a little bit here. Today, the market is being defended. But again, the volume is just minuscule today. I mean, if you look at a stock like Baidu today, it's trading, basically 4 million shares. I mean, that stock can trade 10 million or better on any given day. So you know that the volume is extremely light, and we'll see if this is going to set us up, which I believe it will set us up for some nice declines in 2012.
Now, for those of us who don't know what a Chinese ADR is, bring that out. It might be Greek.
Basically, it's just an American depository receipt. It's a foreign company that will trade on one of the indexes, the exchanges here in the United States.
Okay, give us a symbol or something so that people.
Well, you could look at like a stock like Baidu. That's a Chinese ADR. Another stock would be NetEase, NTES, Sohu, which is SOHU, Sina Corp, which is SINA, China Mobile, which is CHL. These are all Chinese ADRs that are available to trade, Chinese stocks that are available to be traded on the U.S. exchanges.
It's just kind of interesting. It's a little off topic, but I'm going to bring this up. We have a guy on the show every so often. He's going to be a regular in January. His name is David Downey, and he's the CEO of One Chicago. And I was looking at his website, and they make their own indexes. You can make an index
fascinating guy.
For yourself. Have you looked into that?
I haven't, Michael, but that does sound pretty interesting. I have not looked into that.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. It was just amazing, and I'm gonna have David on later on in the show and see if we can put you two guys together, because your accuracy is creating ripples across the news waves, and for you to be able to come up with an index, a tradable index using what David's got, I think we might be able to have something that could really go places. I'd be more than happy to promote the whole thing for you.
Well, I'm very intrigued by it, so I'm open to any meetings there. It sounds great to me.
I'm gonna talk more about that. But anyway, before we get out of here, I know we're all going to go to Christmas, have our Christmas parties and whatnot. Give us some addresses so everybody can get in contact with you. Go into the trading rooms and learn to trade like you do.
Yeah, just come on over to InTheMoneyStocks.com. Check us out. Take a 7-day free trial. See it for yourself. Come to our intraday stock chat or try our research center. There's plenty of information out there. There's also a lot of free information as well, and we'd love to have you.
Wait, before Simon gets in there, I'd like you to come to Dallas and let us fill a room for you.
Yeah, that would be terrific.
It sounds great. It sounds great. I'm up for it.
Now, Simon only does the best. He's going to want to do it at the Ritz or some other place like that. We'll put you up nice.
Yeah.
All right, it sounds good. Let's make a date.
Don't go away. Simon's got something for you.
Do you gift wrap the trading DVDs for the listeners out there? Great Christmas present.
You could. Just send an email for that request. There's no problem there.
Okay, great. How do they get to you?
Just come on over to InTheMoneyStocks.com. Everything is on our website, and come take a free trial. Most people out there, give it a shot. You'll see in 7 days. Usually, you'll have a pretty good gist of what we're all about.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Michael.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
And you
too. All right, everybody. Nick Santiago, InTheMoneyStocks.com on the